Told you in opening that this was a case where the hospital delayed treatment for Jessie Adams, that it violated its policies and procedures when it delayed treatment, and that it harmed Jessie Adams. And I feel like we delivered that evidence to you. Each side in opening asked you all to please listen to the evidence. And you were specifically promised another side of the story. What is the other side of this story? What you heard in the courtroom is not normal. It is not normal for a hospital to have probably 20 breaches of policies and procedures. They matter. This isn't little stuff. This is stuff that matters. It's not normal. You were promised another side of the story. Did you hear it? I'm going to go through my opening. I'm going to go through a little bit of process and timeline and evidence and policies. But when you're thinking about this case, deliberating about this case, wouldn't you expect a hospital in the emergency room of all places to follow its policies and procedures, to provide standard of care, and to get to somebody who desperately needed care as quickly as they could? That's when it's most important. And my client deserved that. He didn't get that.
The first thing that I want to talk about is the commentary about the policies. And I know y'all have heard it ad nauseum. I want to go through, as my colleague was sitting here adding up the policy violations, I tabulated 26 breaches. 26. This isn't a third world country. This isn't a metroplex. This is right down the road this happened. The policy regarding the policy on policies with respect to the way you train and keep track of training, there were 5 breaches. The charting with respect to charting communications, 3 breaches. Staff orders, 2 breaches. Verbal and written communication, 5 breaches. Coordination of care, 2 breaches. Nurse and radiology tech coordinating and communicating, 2 breaches. ER gets first reads of radiology. That's what they're supposed to call a DECA. That's their policy. That's at least 1 breach, depending on how you want to chart that. The nurse is responsible for patient MRI prep and transporter transports, 2 breaches. The 1-hour policy on surgery. What they want you to do with these policies that are the bedrock of good hospital administration is they want you to track them. They want you to ignore them. You know why? Because it hangs the hospital. This whole concept of organized chaos, that's the result. You heard from the lawyers. You get organized chaos when you have the inmates running the asylum. There is no coordination between these departments. There was no integration. There was no communication or collaboration, if you want to talk about what Nurse Tapper said. The hospital knows that it has a problem. 5% of the people who are in need of static MRI imaging, static imaging in the radiology department, only 5% of the people that are surveyed, according to the government, are getting the appropriate attention in the right time frame. The national average is 71%. The Texas average is 69%. The reason this is important is the hospital is not only not following the policy, there's a big light blinking on the dash saying, we got problems. They're not doing anything about it. Jessie Adams is an example of that. Here's the other thing. I can't remember who it was that said, you know what's so offensive to me? What's offensive to me is the hubris that this hospital has come in here and told you there's no evidence. There's no evidence of conscious indifference. There's no evidence that they were subjectively aware of an extreme degree of risk. You know what they've done instead? Is they're blaming VU. I don't want to have credibility in front of this jury. A jury trial is a race to credibility. I'm telling you that Dr. VU is negligent because he was, not because it's convenient for my client. The reality is that he was. Do you think there's credibility on the hospital's part on how they're calling balls and strikes with their conduct? You get to decide that. Have you ever thought about the fact that Dr. Polhurst, when he testified, who's an owner of the hospital, who makes millions of dollars as an owner of the hospital, who came in here and testified, I know what the policy says, but that's not what it means. Big part of their defense on the 1-hour surgery policy. Have you ever thought about the fact that why are these lawyers hired by this hospital blaming Dr. Vu? He's an owner. He's not here. Have you wondered about that? Have you wondered why it is Dr. Vu didn't come in here and testify? We know because Dr. Toller's told us. Tuesday, he ran into him at the hospital. He still has privileges at this hospital. He's still doing procedures at this hospital. The lawyers that represent this hospital are blaming a doctor who is on staff. He's so terrible. Mr. Shell stood up here and waved around his clinic and talked about how terrible his clinic is. He's so bad that this hospital is continuing to allow him to practice there. Is that credible? Does that make sense? I'm a child of the 90s. There's a song, what they want you to see will make you blind. If you read this policy, it doesn't say any of the things that they're trying to, I mean, I get the mental gymnastics of what they're doing. It doesn't say what they say. What this says is all surgical procedures will be classified when scheduled for surgery. What's the evidence we've brought you? We have physically shown you the surgery schedule where it was scheduled. It was scheduled to start at 9 o'clock. The other part about this is how do you reconcile their story? So let me get this straight. There's a patient in the OR, and you have to interrupt that to put an emergency patient in there. You have to do that within an hour. But not Jessie Adams, when there's no conflict whatsoever. Does that have credibility? Does that make sense? Does that seem like maybe it was contrived and invented for purposes of this lawsuit? Their lives have been destroyed. Their hopes and dreams have been eviscerated. There is no prosthetic for that. There is no pill, there's no procedure to fix that. And what my clients are asking for is to hold this hospital accountable. Yes, there is evidence of this. This is the willful and wanton negligence question. These people knew that this was dangerous. You heard it from the witnesses. They knew, and they didn't do anything. They sat there. They didn't pick up the phone. They didn't follow their policy. They didn't get her to surgery. I'm tired of hearing about people saying, nobody said anything about it. Nobody complained. Yeah, I know. That's the point. That's the point. This hospital had become a place where people weren't saying, this isn't right. What's funny is, they're experts of, yeah, I can't explain this. Takes longer than I would expect. Anthony Duncan said, can't explain it. You need to write yes on this. And we've given you the evidence to support why. It's there. What we are asking from you is for you to hold these people accountable. They're not here for some big payday. What they want is accountability. And I'm telling you right now, if you let the hospital hurt people and then you don't make them pay for it, what you're doing is you're incentivizing that. They're going to be high-fiving. Because what that says is that I can get away with exactly what I did here, and I'll never have to pay for it. What did they say? What did the company say when we asked them about policies and procedures that are designed to protect patient health? When those get violated? No comment. No comment. Your opportunity to comment on this case is to vote with your verdict. If you think this is bad, if you think this was wrong, you guys have the power to do something about it, to stop this.